Hello, everyone. My name is Anna Valdinger. I'm a fiction publisher at HarperCollins, and I'm so excited to be talking today with two of our wonderful authors who are shortlisted for this year's Banjo Prize for Fiction. The reason we specifically wanted to talk to these two today is because, unbeknownst to us, they are both members of the same writing group, something that we only discovered after they had both been shortlisted. First, we have Amara McKee, author of The Shores Between, and Natasha Neary, author of The Sister Tree. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us today for a quick chat. And congratulations on the shortlisting. It's so exciting. I wanted to ask, I guess, first of all, how did you come to be in the same writing group? How did this writing group start? And how did you get to know each other? I'll start with Mara.
Sure. So in 2021, I enrolled in the Australian Writers Centre's 6-month Write Your Novel program, as did Natasha. And there were 16 of us in the group, and we had great rapport right from the beginning. And even before the course was finished, we'd already set up a Discord site so we could keep chatting to each other, and a space to share our work and provide feedback and keep in touch. And we've been going strong ever since.
And I think part of it was because it was in lockdown. So it was kind of lockdown phase 2. And I guess we all needed, that social contact and to keep some part of our creative lives going when the rest was a bit upside down and we were all confined to homes all around Australia. So I think that, real collegiate atmosphere started there, and, also just a really great mix of people with all different personalities and skills. It was just like sort of special sauce.
And are you all writing commercial fiction, or was it a mixed bag of different styles and genres?
All sorts of things. So we've got like futuristic dystopian fantasies and a few murder mysteries, one sort of vigilante crime novel, there's a memoir, and then there's what would you call it, a fictionalized account of a real Australian convict. So yeah, it's all sorts of things, and children's and YA.
And I'm so interested in how the mechanics of a writing group work, because obviously writing itself can be such a lonely endeavor. It's just you, it's your laptop, it's your imagination. And so you go away and write, and then does everyone submit some work, or does everyone take turns? Like this week, it's Natasha's turn for everyone to have a look at some chapters. Can you talk me through the kind of practicalities of it?
It's quite organic, really. We don't have set times to submit feedback. If someone's written a short story they want to submit to a competition, they'll add it to the channel and we could all have a look over it and provide feedback. If some of the group are submitting one chapter every week or every couple of weeks just to keep themselves accountable, and when we can, we'll provide feedback. But that part is very unstructured. But we do have a monthly meeting, and that's very structured. We have an incredible lady named Catherine who runs a tight ship, takes our meeting minutes and organises us. And we meet on the first Monday of each month, and we have guest speakers. We've had Matthew Spencer, Candice Fox. I'm blanking. Who else?
Stevenson.
That's just so fantastic. So it's quite organised through the Writers Centre.
No, that was our own setup. So we sort of just drew on everybody's strengths. So the woman who runs our monthly meetings, she works quite high up in the corporate world. So she's used to running a meeting. So she just said, look, I'll do that. She's brilliant at it. I'm good at finding restaurants. I've worked in PR, so event management. So, when we all met up for the Sydney Writers Festival, I would, organise where we'd eat and where we'd meet, where we stayed and all those kind of things. Shelley's kind of really good at, she's the
matriarch.
She's the matriarch, but also like the champion of everyone. She just lifts everyone's spirits. She's always cheering you on. If you've had a rejection, she'll call you and just get you out of the the glums. And I think, and she's also very technically savvy. So I'll go to her with all my Scrivener problems. And then I think Jude is sort of a quiet, like always urging people together. I think he suggested we go on Discord from memory. So that sort of set up the structure. But then because we'd already had those deadlines in the writing course with the AWC, most of us had swapped manuscripts with at least 3 other people by the time we started. So we're really familiar with each other's work, or at least most people's. And then because there's no deadline, like in some writing groups, it's like you have to turn up once a month with new material, and then that stresses you out. And if you don't manage that month, you feel like you're failing, and then you sort of drop out and the writing group disbands. But we don't have that. It's like you submit whatever you want when you want and just see if someone's there, and there's always someone there to give you feedback. And it might be a flash fiction, furious fiction, or it might be your whole manuscript. So, you know, and it also, you can sort of set yourself a deadline with people. So I think last year I said to one of the other people, do you want to swap manuscripts on November 1? So we've got 2 months to clean it up, and then we'll give each other feedback. So that gave me a bit of pressure, self-enforced pressure, but also accountability. And that was great. And then we'll do a deep dive into each other's manuscripts. It's kind of like a beta reader, structural edit, copy editor, all in one.
That's so fantastic to have that impetus and that structure, because I think it can get so easy to sort of be lost in the weeds with your own manuscripts. And I'm interested, how has the process been for you in terms of giving and receiving constructive criticism? You know, obviously you will get on very well. I'm assuming you'll trust each other's taste, but it can be hard to be edited.
I think we got lucky because, well, not lucky so much, but the course that we did, the 6-month Write Your Novel program, gave us guidance on how to deliver feedback of what makes good writing or good structure, good dialogue. So we had those base skills there. And so when we moved into our own group, we already had that trust and respect for each other. And to be honest, now I submit things for feedback without any fear at all. When I submit to this group, I trust that they're going to deliver it kindly, but also tell me where it's not working. And I've submitted short stories, which have gone on to win prizes because of the work that that the group's done with me. The Shores Between, Natasha read the entire thing and provided some incredible constructive feedback. It was insightful and thoughtful and so useful to make that manuscript stronger. So
right, well,
I know there's some that will still have trouble submitting things, and some people will, but I hope that we've really built a group that has that trust there.
And it's kind of like group therapy, because it's like you're sharing deeply personal things. So after a while, like, we know a lot of intimate details about each other's lives because some short stories and manuscripts are based on reality. So, you know, it is a vulnerable space. And I think, as Amara said, having those guidelines set up was really good, but also you do need to learn to be like, I've had a lot of feedback in my time having been a journalist, so I'm used to it. And, you know, it's still crushing when, you know, what you're doing is not working, but, you know, it's kind of water off a duck's back. But I have had to be a bit conscious that other people are really early in their writing journey and might be the first time they've ever had criticism on their work. So I have had to pull back a few times, but I'm much more structured in my feedback now, and sort of, you know, and also you've got to really point out the good bits. Like, sometimes when people give feedback, they forget to say that they loved it. They're just going right into, oh, you know, it was a bit boring in the middle and the ending was abrupt or whatever. So you've got to just point out, like, this works, this was hilarious, your dialogue is crackling, the story's fabulous, just need to, you know, it'll be a few small changes and it'll be amazing. So yeah.
It's so true. Even as an editor, I can forget, you know, when something's working, you're like, oh, brilliant, tick, move on, you know, but the poor author is just left getting, you know, this barrage of, you know, feedback about things that need work. And it can be crushing. So you do have to point out what works also, so that you, as the writer, know, you know, what to kind of do more of and what to pull back on.
Yeah.
And again, so you're all at sort of different stages. Obviously, you've been a journalist, Natasha, you know, you've had some of your short stories, and, you know, your book has already been longlisted, I think, for the Hungerford, Amara, and...
Not me.
Sorry, over to Amara.
Yeah, no, my short stories have won an NT Literary Award and shortlisted and longlisted and a couple of others. This is the first time a full-length novel manuscript has made it anywhere. So, yes.
And so are some of the rest of the group complete newbies? Do you have any people in there who are previously published who can kind of guide you through what the process is once you've been acquired, or it's all a group of aspiring? I mean, everyone's aspiring, whether you've been published or not. You know, we all aspire to the next level.
Mostly we're on the journey together.
That's lovely. Yeah, so that's great. And I mean, I'm just because I'm, you know, really nosy. Do you ever really disagree over someone's novel? Like the feedback contradicts each other?
Totally.
I think that will always happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you come? Oh, sorry, go, Natasha.
Sorry, it's up to each person. I mean, sometimes I'll get feedback and I think, oh no, I'm not going to make that change. And then 2 months later, I think actually that would work really well in this section of the manuscript or whatever, changing this character or cutting that character. But you get all sorts of different feedback and you've really just got to make your own decisions. And as Amara said, so long as it's delivered kindly, but often you just go away and chew it over and it's, you know, it doesn't make sense at the time because you're too busy feeling so aggrieved that there's anything wrong with your work. But once, you know, you sort of settle, the dust settles, you can sort of choose the bits you want to change, the bits you want to keep. But
well, I guess everything is just a suggestion, right? And so if someone flags something that's not working, it's not necessarily that their suggestion is the right way forward, but it's just showing that perhaps something isn't quite working. And, you know, ideally with editorial feedback, the author will come up with an even better solution or kind of way to come at it.
And what I always remind myself, because some people are like, oh, I don't have the authority to give you feedback. And I'm like, but you're all really qualified readers. Like, we're not editors, we're not publishers, we don't have that kind of experience, but everyone knows when they read a book if they get bored in the middle, or if one character just makes them want to throw the book against the wall, or if there's a plot hole in the mystery, or if, you know, like I planted a couple of clues in my book and then forgotten to, you know, follow them up later and things like that. So everyone can see those things. So, but people might all have different ideas about how to fix them. So that's the difference. But it's
nice. That was absolutely my next question was, do you come at it as a reader, you know, and you just, because presumably you're all reading, you know, I think what makes a great writer is being a great reader and reading, you know, within your genre, but also outside your genre. And so I'm curious, do you ever deconstruct a published novel that you've all read and sort of pick through it and see how did they do X and Y, particularly something like a crime book, you know, where it is about how do you subtly seed in clues, you know, or a memoir, where do you start? Do you start when I was born? Do you start, you know, in the middle? Do you ever pick through other people's work without them there?
Not that formally, but we've got a channel in Discord, which is What I'm Reading. And we'll post up a book that we've read that will have comments on the structure and go, oh, that didn't seem to work right, or gosh, this book had amazing dialogue. And so we kind of informally discuss books that we've read and what works, what doesn't. And I think that's really helpful as well. And I suppose it's now becoming quite difficult to read a book without turning on the little critique brain in the background. So when we read a book where we have nothing bad to say, when it's just amazing, we love to share that as well, and so that others can read it and learn from it.
Yeah. And we also have a podcast channel. So there's all sorts of channels, but there's one where we share a podcast. So we're all listening to podcasts about writing and so on. And if you've had a real aha moment or just really enjoyed it, you'll share it in there and say why. And then we've got a problem solver channel. So if, you know, you're really struggling with a plot point, or you just don't know how to make this character more interesting, you put it in there and people would throw in ideas. And then sometimes it's like, you know, have you read this book and seen how they do it, and so on.
Oh, that sounds amazing. It's so organized. I was just thinking it was like a WhatsApp with just endless messages pinging around, but you're actually so well structured. This is really helpful for people.
Grown organically over time. Like, we've, you know, someone will suggest, why don't we have a channel for this and that and that? Yeah. So,
There
but it
is a
just
lot of chat.
yeah,
A lot of chat.
a lot of-
Well, and sometimes I wonder, you'd be sitting there, you'd be all right, I've got to sit down and actually work on my manuscript. Are you often tempted to just slide over to the Discord and just have a little chin wag with your mates?
Pretty much always for me. Because to me, it's all so intertwined now. When I do have time, Anna, I've told you that I'm a librarian. I'm a medical librarian. I work full time. I've got 3 little kids. When I do have time to sit down and write, it's kind of going into that writer's zone. So for me, writing is also tied in so heavily with the All Write Club, and so it is very tempting to want to spend that time chatting. So have to be quite disciplined to sit down and put words on the page instead.
And how do you structure your writing? Natasha, presumably you kind of day job, journalism, writing, and, that kind of thing. Do you carve out a specific time for the fiction? All right, 8 p.m, an hour of fiction, or is it a bit more mishmash?
I'm actually not working at the moment. So I was a journalist many years ago, and then I did PR for about 12 years for travel, hotels, and celebrity chefs and developers and all sorts of things. And a couple of years ago, I took off a year to write my novel, which has turned into 2. So my structure is sort of to sit down at about 9 or 10 o'clock, depending on what's happening at home, and do a couple of 45-minute sprints with a break in between, and then a couple of those in the afternoon. And then at least you've sort of met 3 hours minimum. And if I'm on a roll, I'll do a couple more. But then it's also other things, like you might be reading a book on writing or listening. I always listen to podcasts in the car, so I probably listen to a podcast on writing every day, or a book on writing or something, or just an audio, fiction audiobook and all those things. And then there's lots of feedback. So I might sometimes do a couple of hours of feedback for other people's work, which might sound distracting, but I think it just consolidates in your mind. It's usually things that you're doing wrong that you notice in other people's manuscripts. And then you go back to your own and think, oh, that's how I fix that. So it's bizarre how it's like, like relationship therapy. Like if I looked at, your marriage, I could see all the problems in it. But if I looked at mine, I'd be clueless. So it's all helpful.
That's such an amazing insight to make you realize actually you're reading somebody else's and then you have an aha about your own work. That's just
every single time.
That's so brilliant. And also, I think it's hard to kind of stay in the one thing. As you say, like those 45-minute sprints, I think sound like a fantastic idea because, sometimes if an author's like, I want to write a book, I feel like I've got to sit down, I've got to write productively for 4 hours. And I don't know that that's always possible.
Every time I think to myself, I'm going to sit down for 8 hours today and work, I just procrastinate. It's like my brain just resents me and just rebels. So I try and just keep like, anyone can do 45 minutes, right? No matter how busy you are, you can find 45 minutes. So that's what I tell myself. I'm not allowed to get up, have a cup of tea, go to the toilet, anything. So, and then once that's done, you're generally on a roll. So it works.
I tell myself that about exercise as well, but it doesn't always happen.
20 minutes of exercise.
And often you're much more productive in a short time anyway. For me, my time often is just reduced to an hour and a half on a Saturday or a Sunday when my 18-month-old is having a nap. And so I know I've got maybe an hour and a half, less possibly. So get down, get the work done, and you can get a lot done if you just make the most of the time that you do have. And you have to, otherwise it will never get done.
Well, absolutely. And speaking of which, I should probably wrap this up, although I could happily chat to you guys for ages because this is so fascinating, a kind of glimpse into the writer life that I don't often get, particularly in this kind of collective way that I just think is so good. I presume that you would encourage other people to join writers groups and reach out to their local writers centres and look into finding a gang. Because it's clearly paying off for the two of you. Because right from the first page of both your manuscripts, we were really blown away by the confidence, the assurance of the voice, the pace, the characters, all of that. Like you both, it was so exciting when we realized that you were both in the same writing group because straight away, you two rose to the top of the pile. And finally, I just want to ask, how did you guys both find out that you were shortlisted? Like, I had a lovely chat with both of you, or like, you know, trying to pin you down on the phone, but no one answers an unknown number anymore. So that was really fun. But then it was after that presumably you guys had jumped on the Discord, or?
Yeah, I think that's how it happened. I don't, it's all a bit of a blur, but yeah, I had a chat with you, and then what did we see, Amara? Yeah, it must have been on Discord that I was a bit late to the party, and they went, "Oh wow, Amara's on there too." So that was just the best news.
Yeah, amazing, absolutely amazing. Of course, I think Tash posted first, so everyone's jumping on board, going, "Wow, this is incredible, amazing! How brilliant!" And then would have been a few hours later, I've done the same, and it was just a collective. It's actually a main room for a reason.
Hadn't noticed, and then went, "Oh, yeah."
Yeah.
Oh, so fun, so fun. I just think it's wonderful encouragement for everyone out there who's working on their own book, and the Banjo for us particularly is such a great resource to find talent like yourself. So I'm just so grateful that you both entered. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for jumping on today. It's such a treat to talk to you both.
So excited. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great chat.